Okay, welcome to the Sister Girls Book Club podcast. I'm your host, Sharee, and we are back from summer break. We've been going for a little while, and I have a guest that if you haven't already fallen in love with her, by the end of this conversation, you definitely will, Miss Beverly Mahone. But to us, I just know, and most people, we just know her as Auntie Bev. You splashed onto social media by giving us your word of the day. It was very simple. Since then, you have gained over 1 million followers on Instagram. You created a community of word lovers, giving us history lessons, motivation, and now you have a new vocabulary dictionary. So, welcome, Auntie Bev. How are you?
Thank you so much. I am, what do they say, blessed and highly favored?
Yes.
No,
That's
I'm
great.
seriously, I'm well. Thank you very much for asking.
Okay, so I always start by asking people on a scale of 1 to your favorite song or your favorite artist, 10 being your favorite artist or the song of the summer, how do you feel? So you got to tell us the song or the artist and then give us a scale of 1 to 10. Their song or the artist is the 10 being the highest.
Okay, is it a recent song or any old song?
Any song that you've been listening to this summer.
Oh, that I've been, oh my God. See, I listen to a hodgepodge of music
Mhm.
because when I go to the gym, I'm always listening to music and I don't listen to anything past the 90s.
That's
So,
fine because I'm probably stuck around the early 2000s. I'm trying to get so,
okay. So let me see the song that comes to. Can I give you a couple of songs?
yeah, give me like at least two.
Okay, so the first song that comes to mind is "Breaking of Day" by Mariette Clark.
Okay.
And it's like a motivational song for me. I can feel the breaking of day. I know that good things are coming my way, and I love that. So when I'm on the treadmill and that song comes on, I'm like really getting it because I really do feel that way. The second song, which is probably not one that you could probably connect anything to, but I just happen to like the artist, is Tina Turner. You better be good to me.
Okay, now I know that song.
Oh, it's Marette Brown Clark. That's who sings Breaking of Day. She's a part of the Clark sisters, the
Mhm.
gospel group. So yeah, that those two songs would be the songs that I would say um, kind of give me that power. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably say a good 9.
Well, that's good. That's not that we're starting at a high point. That's a high
Yeah,
point.
that's a high point for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I say that, Cherie, because in the last several months, I really had highs and lows, and I've dealt with some major health issues.
Mhm.
And I always feel that there is going to be a breaking of day
Yeah.
and that blessings are going to come my way because in order to get through, you have to go through. And even in the challenges that I, faced
Mhm.
and continue to face, I always believe that I'm going to get through
Yeah.
and I will see that breaking of day. And after I see that breaking of day, you better be good to me.
Right? Because you coming up to pick up all your blessings.
That's right. I'm coming out.
I love that. And this is why we love you. This is literally why we love you. I mean, for those who are not familiar with you, I know I personally just stumbled upon you on Instagram because I do run Sister Girls Book Club. So I'm always looking for new literature, just new people to find within that space. And I just came across a video and you was like the word of the day. And I didn't know what the word meant. I didn't even know how to pronounce the word. I was just
Okay.
like, and I read a lot. So I'm like, hold up, who is this woman who got us stumped? And then I just loved your personality. It was just like something about you that felt very familiar, felt very kindred spirit, felt very Auntie Bev. Like even that, like that kinship where you just let us call you auntie because a lot of people they don't like the auntie
Right.
title these days. Always an argument with that, but it just felt so familiar and cool. And I feel like that's one of the things that we loved about you. So how did you go from being a journalist to working in the community to giving like these business seminars and helping other women with business to like say, you know what, let me pick up my camera, go on Instagram and give us a word of the day? Like, how does that? That's a story. You got 1.2 million followers on Instagram. There are celebrities that don't have that big of a following.
Yeah, that it is a crazy story, and I'm going to try to make it as short as possible because I have told this story before, and I have to really give credit to my grandson, who is now a freshman in college.
Oh,
But 3 years ago, when I lost my job to COVID, I was, sitting in my office at home and trying to figure out, well, what am I going to do? Because I didn't want the burden of all of the finances to fall on my husband. I was trying to figure out, well, I got to do something. And I wasn't, going back into media again. I'd had enough. And I had done some customer service. I'm not cut out for customer service, even though you may seem like I am. I'm not that person. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do. But once again, I was dealing with some health issues. So it kind of limited me to some degree. All right, to make a long story short, my grandson, who was over Mother's Day weekend that year, and I believe he was 14 or at the time, he suggested that I go on TikTok. He said, "Oh, Grandma, you go on TikTok, you can make a whole lot of money, and then you can teach my generation how to communicate more effectively." And I was like, no, because I had been on TikTok and spent a couple of hours there just scrolling and laughing and thinking, well, these are the most ridiculous videos I've ever seen. And then realized that I had lost 2 hours of my whole life on a social media app, right? And he just convinced me. He said that, he thought it would be great. And I wasn't thinking about the money, but I was thinking he might have a point. Maybe I can make a difference in young people's lives in some small way. So we went to the Dollar Tree. He bought me this little red hat that I still have. He put it on, took a picture of me, and uploaded it to TikTok, and had this caption and said, he had me do this. He took the picture, and he said, the caption was, "Don't tell my granddaughter and grandson, but Grandma has just joined TikTok." And it got lots of hits. And I was like, it's just a picture. What it's just a picture. And then from there, I introduced my very first vocabulary word, which was cognizant. And I was very surprised at the number of people who did not know that word. I thought it was a basic word. I was just testing the waters.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of people who did not even know what that word meant. And that's really how it started. And no, I didn't make a lot of money on TikTok. Okay. So let's not get that twisted. I did not. But sometimes here's what I believe. It's not about the money, because at the end of the day, when a young person comes back to me and they say, "You know what? I used that word you gave me in an essay and I got 100." Or the teacher was so impressed because I turned in a paper with words that they just didn't know I knew. That's priceless to me. So, it's a win-win.
So I love that story because it was just literally using the talent that you had that was God gifted to you. And then you just said, let me just try it. And I think that's like a testimony in itself, because a lot of people are afraid to just try and put themselves out there. And your grandson saw something in you, because out of all the things, because he could have said, do comedy, do a dance, he said,
no, he would not have, but okay.
But I'm just saying he thought about it and said, well, she's taught me, probably, I'm assuming, because he even said to help other people learn how to communicate effectively. First of all, not many 14-year-olds even speak like that on a regular. And so I think that's beautiful. And then you just, like I said, I think people really just find you and they just hold you because you're teaching them something and you're also very warm. So what I'm trying to figure out is, like, one day you just start with a word. How did you come to build this whole thing out? Because you have like motivation Monday, you got like history lessons now infused with your words. So now we're getting a history lessons on the Star Spangled Banner, how that was created, and we're getting the word at the same time. And then you do this thing, which is actually my favorite one, where you ask people to pronounce a word. You give them the word. So the word might be like route and root, and which one do you use? And then by the end of that, so you'll ask them several words, and then by the end of that, you'll say, which word do you say? What is a word in your vocabulary that you say a lot? And I love that because it gets us to think. And most people don't think about what they say. So how did you even build it out and just move beyond words?
Wow, that's a really good question. And a lot of it just came to me. I mean, well, the motivational Monday came to me based on a direct message that I received from a young lady who was I'm not sure exactly what she was dealing with, and because she was very vague in her message, but she just wanted to let me know that she really appreciated the fact that I was delivering the words and it was a bright spot in her day. And I felt at that moment that I should offer her some kind of message to say something just to let her know, I think I used the word indomitable. That's the word I used. And I told her, to stay indomitable no matter what challenges you face because you'll get through it. And she wrote me back and she thanked me so much because she learned a new vocabulary word that she did not know, and she said she was going to make sure she used that word from now on. So in that moment I thought, you know what, she's probably not the only one.
Yeah.
So maybe I can just take the beginning of your day, your week,
Mm-hmm.
and offer you some type of motivation. It doesn't have to be a big thing. I can just throw
Mm-hmm.
out something about words or just living life, etc. And that's how Motivational Monday really did start. And since then, I have received messages from people who say, both publicly and privately, how much they appreciate it because in that moment they needed to read that. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, as far as the other stuff goes, the pronunciation challenge, that see there, I'm glad you asked me that question because there's no right or wrong
You
answer.
know, I always wanted to know was it because I'm sitting up there thinking, am I saying this word wrong?
Mm,
Is it regional? Or
it's
am I
regional.
yeah, because I know for me, I'm from New York. I'm from Brooklyn. So I'm very Brooklyn. And my accent is I didn't know I had an accent until I went away to college. And you would think I went far away. I went to university at Buffalo. I didn't go anywhere that I didn't go that far. And what happened was I had friends who were from Rochester and they started to imitate a New Yorker, like a Brooklyn, like in out the boroughs. And it was like, y'all don't even pronounce your R's. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they were like, y'all say water. And I'm like, no, we don't. We say what? And the thing is, I couldn't even say it right to give it to them. To be like, we say water. And I'm like, no, we don't. We say water. We say mother, we say father. Like we take it's like it doesn't exist. So
Exactly.
when you said I think one of the words was like route and root. I'm like, well, I say root. Have I been saying this wrong all these years? Or I say pecan or instead of pecan and I was like, well, that's interesting how just by where you live, it can totally change how you pronounce a word.
That's exactly right. And I tell everyone prior to doing the challenge that there is no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what part of the country you grew up in,
Mm-hmm.
what that environment was, what you heard.
Mm-hmm.
And when people then say, well, no, they didn't pronounce that correctly. Well, it's because they don't live where you live. And that's not what they heard. Yeah, and I love doing those because young people, they have to really think about, well, do I say that or do I really say that?
Mm-hmm.
And even older people have to think,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't know, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Because when you're writing the word, I know that water has an R at the end when I write it, but when I say it just in passing, I'm like, oh, give me a cup of water. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Exactly.
I'm not fully okay. So people often assume that the only time that you need to showcase your vocabulary is when you're communicating in writing, like in the written space,
Mhm.
in the written world. How important is it to showcase it through the way we speak to one another daily? And how can that actually change the way people view us?
That's another great question. Well, two things. Let me say this first. Number one, you really should have a strong vocabulary bank. But number two, you should also know when to use it and not use it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where code switching comes in because I didn't even know it as a child, but as a child, I was code switching. I didn't know what the terminology was, but I knew that in certain environments, I'd speak one way, and then in other environments, I'd speak another way.
Mm-hmm.
When you and let me also say this: not every word I introduce in a video is a word you'll use.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not even 50% of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a word gravitate towards, I recommend you write it down, the definition, and then find ways to incorporate that into whether it's a personal conversation or in a professional conversation. Because there are words that you would only use in a personal conversation, For example, the word lalokezia. That's probably not a word that you would use in a professional environment. That's the emotional relief you get when you cuss somebody out. You're
Mhm.
probably not going to cuss out your boss at work and then say, "Oh, Lord, thank you. I just had a moment of lalokezia." You're not going to say that, right?
Uh-huh.
But it'll be a word that you can use.
Mhm.
And if you are in that situation in a personal setting, then yeah, chances are you can throw that word out there and then just walk away. Or just, smile and because the person doesn't know what you said,
Mhm.
and then just keep it moving. But I do believe that if you hear a word and you hear the context of the word in which it is used,
Mhm.
and you think that, you know what, that's a word that I really think I can use and I want to use it,
Mhm.
then write it down and find ways to use it. Don't just write it down and put it away.
Yeah.
Find a way to incorporate it in some conversation you're having. And that's how those words stuck with me. You can't see it behind me, but I started trying to clean out my office, and I came across journals like from the 90s of
Mhm.
words that I had written down because I'd seen them in books and thought, I never came across that word before. Let
Mhm.
me go look it up. So now I've got all these journals, and that's how I sometimes pick words from those journals
Mhm.
and introduce them to my followers.
I love that. So you don't just wake up one morning and have this great vocabulary. Like, how did you learn that one words were important and then important enough for you to take a step back and say, you know what? I want to start learning as many words, how to pronounce them, what the definitions are, and like incorporating them into my everyday life and communication. Like, how do you go from just talking to saying like I want to make this take a personal moment to enhance my overall communication skills.
I don't know if there was one moment, but
Mhm.
let me go back to second grade. So let
Okay.
me just,
The
because
strategy.
in, yeah, second grade, because that's where, in hindsight, I believe that my desire to understand words really developed. So the story is that when I was in second grade, we had reading groups. The Bluebirds were the highest reading group, and the Redbirds were the next to highest, and then they had the Yellowbirds and the Greenbirds. And I was in the Redbirds, and I didn't understand why I was in the Redbirds and I couldn't be in the Bluebirds. And I just didn't understand it. Now, maybe some racism has something to do with it. I don't know. But in hindsight, um, and my teacher, Miss Malone, I would always go to her, and say, "Miss Malone, when can I get into the Bluebirds?" And she said, "Well, your time will come. You need to improve on your reading." So what I did was I went to the library, which was just right next door to the school, and I would get fourth grade reading books and fifth grade reading books and just go home and read them. And then I would go to school and I would go to her desk with my little fourth grade book and I'd start reading, right? I mean, I just needed her to see I know how to read.
For real.
But then what she taught me was it's not so important to read the word, but you have to understand, you have to comprehend what it means in
Mhm.
context.
Mhm.
So that's when I got it. And
Mhm.
that's when I moved up to the Bluebirds. Okay.
Yeah.
That's when I got it. And I know, as a child, how do you know these things? I mean, there's no way I could have like processed all of that. But as I got older, and then I started really moving into this form of a career, it took me back to second grade. And I remember her saying that, you got to understand what it is you're reading because I don't care how many fancy words you have in your arsenal of words. If you don't know what it really means when you communicate with someone else, they just become lost words. And that's what I'm trying to do when I introduce sentences. I want people to understand this is how it's used. So you don't just have the word, You just don't know that it's a noun or a verb or an adjective or whatever, but you also understand this is how you use it. And when you understand how you use it, you communicate more effectively.
I love that. And I think a lot of us, we get our like or dislike of reading words, all of that at a very young age.
Yes.
And so, one of the ways that I have learned how to expand my vocabulary is by reading. And so, what are some authors or stories that you can remember growing up or even now into adulthood that you're like, oh, this book did it for me, or this author, the way they wrote, so amazing, like it made me want to gobble up the words more.
I was trying to find that book. Um, Hold on a minute. I'm going to try to show you if I can. Ah, whoa. Okay, just disregard that. So, this was the book. It's called You've Got to Be Kidding. I Thought This Was the Great Tribulation by Kathy Lechner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I read this book as an adult prior to writing my first book.
Mm-hmm.
It was the funniest book. She talked about all her trials that she had gone through in her life, and she told them in such a way that just had me laughing and crying at the same time. I was like, oh my God, I went through something like, oh my,
Yeah.
So when I read this book, I said, oh, I want to write like her.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted that style of writing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that book was the one that did it for me. And since then I do read a lot of self-help inspirational books. I've been reading As a Man Thinketh.
Mm-hmm.
I read that probably 2 or 3 times a year, and that kind of refreshes my spirit to
Mm-hmm.
remind me that no matter what the vicissitudes of life, no matter what's happening in that part of my life,
Mm-hmm.
that I will get through. So that's a good book for me. And when I was a child, I read, well, not as a child. Let me say that, not as a child. In high school, I had to read The Grapes of Wrath. I don't know if you know that book.
Familiar.
But I kind of cheated and just did the Cliff Notes. Uh, but when I was in college, I had to read it again for my economics class. And that book just changed the trajectory of the way I saw America. Um, it's interesting, and I don't want to go into great detail about that. But um, so yeah, I read all the books that kids read. I read the Cat in the Hat, and I read all the Dr. Seuss. Um, but I just love to read.
Mhm.
And I once again going back to second grade, Miss Malone forced us, and I say specifically me, she challenged me to really read and understand what I was reading. So that made reading more enjoyable. And when I had my own daughter and grandson, I took some of the tools that I remembered that she had given us, and I used them on them. And I want to say it worked. Not so much for my grandson, but I think with my daughter, I do believe that it really worked. And I'm kind of proud of that. And it's so sad that I mean, she may not be dead. I'm assuming she is because she was really old back then. But it's unfortunate that I'm not able to thank her
Mhm.
because she helped shape what this is now.
Yeah, I think usually if you don't get the chance to thank somebody, it's the fruit. Knowing that, like, I mean, she had to grade your work, and she read, she can see like her like making progress with you because you're able to read and digest the
Yeah.
information. I think she knew.
You think she just gave me a hard time? You think?
Yeah, I think she saw something and said, "Girl, let me make sure this." We're gonna get you past Cat in the Hat, baby. So how did you begin to bridge the gap between the aunties and the youth using social media when it comes to communication? And how do you think that parents and other adults can implement what you've done to reach young people in their lives. Because a lot of your social media, especially the current content, you have a lot of young people. This
Yeah,
is not just something where it's just like, okay, only adults feel invited. There's a lot of young people interested in learning and they feel comfortable with you. And that's one thing, that comfortability will open the doors to even educate. A lot of people, a lot of youth do not feel comfortable when it comes to being around a bunch of adults.
I agree with that. And I once again I got to give credit to my grandson because he told me very early on, because I was getting pushback on TikTok. Kids were brutal. They were like, "Grandma, please go back to Facebook. You don't belong here." I mean, I had a lot. Seriously, I had a lot of little nasty comments from kids, and they can hide behind that screen. But what they didn't know is that Auntie Bev could take off these earrings, and
I know that's right.
so, but they didn't know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my grandson said, meet them where they are. Don't make them feel inferior and don't talk down to them. He said, and just be how you treat me. Basically, that's what he said in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And I had to process that and understand what that really meant. And that is how I believe I developed that TikTok audience, just because
Mm-hmm.
I would push back at them too. So you come at me, I'm coming back at you, just so you understand,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you speak to your mother, I don't know how you speak to your grandmother, but we're not having this in this community. But I still love you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to look out for you and I'm still going to try to help you, but I'm not putting up with your foolishness.
That's the definition of auntie.
So okay, yeah, all right, that's it. And then so that was that community. Now the Instagram community is really more of a mix
Mm-hmm.
because they're younger, they're a little older, they're black, they're white, they're immigrants. I mean, it's just a vast group of people. And so it's I treat them a little differently than I do on TikTok because I do believe they're a step above as far as education goes, but I still think they're in the learning mode
Mm-hmm.
and they still want to get more information.
Yeah.
Facebook, these are the know-it-alls, the
Mm-hmm.
older people like me who think they
Yeah.
already know everything,
Yeah.
and then they want to correct you over something you've said, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't receive the word in which you've given. And
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how to clap back at them too. So, yeah, because that's a totally different beast over
Totally
there.
different over there.
Yeah, totally different beast. But yeah, I think that to answer your question is I'm still learning how to treat each community according to where they are.
Yeah.
Um, Instagram by far is the most engaging community, even though Facebook is not far behind. They're very engaging as well. And they like to engage with each other. And
Yeah.
I love that.
In the comment section.
I love when, if I give a word and you got a comment, and then somebody else comments on the comment that you made, and then somebody else offers a comment, as long as it's respectful,
Mhm.
that is what I want to achieve because we're all in this to grow together. We're
Yeah.
all in this to help each other, lift each other up. I believe that if I can entertain you in my way, and
Mm-hmm.
I can educate and empower you, you can take those resources and you can do the same for somebody else.
Yeah.
I really believe that.
I love it. So staying on the young people, so AAVE is what some people might call proper English often get merged together. And
Yes.
friends like, very demure or pop up where it's a play on the word. And what the dictionary gives as the definition is not what's being translated because it is a play on the word. So how do you make sure that you're teaching and inclusive of AAVE and consider trends on social media while also teaching adults and children the importance of learning the actual definition of words and pronouncing them correctly?
That's a great question. And don't, I'm not going to dismiss AAVE because I do understand. However, What I do is I really do try to stay on my own brand as far as um, making sure that you understand the correct pronunciation of the word, you understand the word in its context. Now, where it gets a little uh, across the line is the sentences that I tend to use.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the sentences will be like, whoa, did Auntie Bev say that? Or well, that
Mhm.
sounds kind of personal to me. So it's in that context. So then you understand, well, if I got this situation going on in my, in my AAVE, then I know I can still use this word. But I don't get caught up in that. When people say, well, we're not here to speak the King's English, that was forced on us. All I say is listen, until you live somewhere where you can speak any old kind of way you want to, and ain't nobody going to care about it, at least have the vocabulary where you can go out and communicate in such a way that someone will not look at you as being ignorant and not understanding how to engage with others.
Mhm.
AAVE is fine, but it's fine in its space. And
Mhm.
that's what I try to say. And, sometimes I know people think I'm pushing back at them and not acknowledging it as a definitive language, but it is. But
Mhm.
it is in its proper place.
Mhm.
You're not going to go to your boss talking about spilling the tea or you ate that. You're not doing that. You're just not. Unless you have a boss who understands that and then everybody in that company speaks that way, you're
Mhm.
just not going to do it.
Yeah, I understand. So I've noticed, even in my own life, that when something tragic happens, or when we get into an argument, or even when we have to advocate for ourselves, in the moment, we can lose our words. And then later on, when we actually get time to sit, we regret how we handled the situation because we either said too much without thinking or we said too little. So, how can we, and it feels like a missed opportunity. So, do you have any tips on how we can center ourselves in the moment and to communicate better? Like, what would you tell the person who's like upset and they're trying to like express themselves, or if they feel like something tragic happens and they still can't find the words? Like, these are instances where you're always like jumbled and you're just like, oh my god, your tongue is twisted and you're like, I don't know. So what would you give as a tip?
Well, there's a couple of things I would do because I've been in those situations where you just don't have the words in that moment to express what you really you feel. And what works for me may not work for someone else, but number one, sometimes you just have to just say, I really don't know the words right now to express what I'm really trying to say to you. But just know that I apologize, I'm sorry, um, or something. You don't have to make it long and it's got to be all grandiose. No, it doesn't have to be. Sometimes you just have to say what you say and just let it be that. In an argument, in an argumentative situation, I've been in those too. Sometimes you just have to say, let me step away from this before I say something that I will regret.
Yeah.
Not that you will regret,
Mhm.
that I will regret. See, because that's the thing, people always say, well, I do this and it's going to be on you. No,
Mhm.
no, no. You're the only one who's going to regret it because at the end of the day, that person's going to be perfectly fine. They're going to move on. And then
Mhm.
you've spewed out all of this vitriol, stuff that you don't even need to say. Who's feeling bad? You are, because you probably ended a
Mhm.
relationship, a friendship, a marriage, whatever. So sometimes, listen, just let me step away from this. When I collect my thoughts,
Mhm.
I'll be back and we'll talk about
Mhm.
this. And then, you lighten the load a little bit now because, whew, so
I
that's what I would say.
I love that. That's a great answer because I would say that too. So some people will argue that with the rise of social media and texting, we have lost the art of communicating.
Yeah,
Do you believe that? And then if so, what steps can we implement to bring it back into our everyday lives?
we have lost it. The English language itself has become such a lost language, and it's sad, and maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm really trying to introduce words to help you to bring back your communication skills. What can we do as far as the texting goes? I told my daughter this years ago. This is when she was she still in high school? I can't remember now, but if you need to communicate with me, number one, first of all, I appreciate it if you'd pick up the phone because I don't want you to text me in messages that I don't understand. And number two, if you are going to text me in full sentences because I don't know that TBT or TBD or what, I didn't understand none of that. And so, you're speaking French to me. I don't know what it means. I think, and this is, I think, which is where the disconnect is between the older generation and the younger generation. Because the younger generation, you all understand each other. You got it. You know what it means. The LOLs, I mean, I didn't know what that was for a long time, but that's neither here nor there. And there's the disconnect.
Mhm.
And when there's a disconnect, we tend not to communicate with each other because we don't want to, either we don't want to be embarrassed that we don't know, or we feel like you're insulting us because you're speaking your own lingo and you know that I'm older than you, and so why can't you just write it the way that I would understand it? And there's a whole lot of dynamic there. I just personally, when you communicate with me via text, I just ask, and most young people know this with me now, is just write it in a complete sentence and put a period there. I need to know that, you stop the sentence, there's a period, and let's just keep moving from there. But I don't know how much of it's going to change because as the years go by, we tend to lose more and more language.
And we write
And
more and more in shorthand.
yes, and what is happening also is that now um, the online dictionaries and Merriam-Webster are putting in words that young people are using. So now all of a sudden there's a whole nother language out there that we don't know as older people. And when you start, you ate that. Somebody said that to me one of my videos. And I was like, what does that mean? I didn't eat. What did I eat? What are they saying? So, and then I asked a question. So what does that mean? What are you saying to me?
Mhm.
And then they came back and they responded.
That is so funny.
I didn't know. Spill the tea. I was drinking tea at the time. And someone said, Auntie Bev, are you going to spill the tea? Well, I'm drinking tea. No, I'm not going to spill it. But I had to learn what that
Mhm.
meant.
If you ever wanted to start a series for like the older generation explaining what these words mean, I think I'm telling you, we'll do numbers. I think that's so hilarious because it happens with my mom too, because she's a grandma now. And so it's so funny because like when her grandkids come over, I understand what they're saying, or if they'll just, say just anything, or because back, I think everybody has their own set of like lingo. But the thing is, it's now in a digital space. So you're seeing it in marketing, you're seeing it a lot of other places.
Yes.
Right. And you're seeing brands use it. Like I remember I was in somebody's comments and a reputable brand was just like, yeah, I am set. And I'm just like, I know for a fact a lot of people wouldn't know what I am set means. And so I'm just like, y'all are using it in y'all action. That has never happened, I don't think, before in a time where companies are now using um lingo to like sell products heavily, though not as just like a little bit, but it's heavily marketed into their campaigns to reach the target audience. And so I find it interesting now.
I do too, because I don't have a clue as to even what that means.
Oh, it's basically like I'm sitting in the front row. Like if you say like if you make a dope video or something, and I just pull up to your video and be like, I am set, or you say you're about to come out with a book, and I'm like, yes, I am set for that. Like I'm gonna sit here, I'm eating that up now. Like I'm gonna buy it, I'm gonna get it. You got me. I'm gonna watch it. I'm set. It's almost like you're sitting. It's like sitting in place. So I'm set.
Okay. Okay.
Like we're here with you, girl. We getting whatever you're giving us. Um,
Speaking of the dictionary,
I was
here's
just about to say that. I was like, we all know that it would seem very natural for you to come out with your own vocabulary dictionary. But what made you say, you know what? I'm about to pull a Webster on y'all and come out with my own. I don't know many people who just have the thought to say, I'm going to drop a dictionary.
I
Like,
know, right? I
dictionaries low key is like right after the Bible. They just always existed. We didn't never know who actually. I don't even know what Webster looks like. You know what I mean? It's just they're there. So to even have somebody who said, "I'm going to create a dictionary for you guys," like what was the thought process behind that? And congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, I know. You know, this is now it's surprising to me now that it really is in print, right?
Yes. When I said you coming up with that, I said first of all, I said I am sat, and then I was like, a black woman just said I'm a
Yeah,
drop.
I know.
That's
I
interesting.
know. So, okay. So the backstory is to that. I mean, I have my followers have been just wonderful and have
Mhm.
really jump started me, kick started me into doing things. The How to Cuss with class.
Yes.
That was a workshop, an online workshop I taught because someone on one of my videos said, you know what? I need to learn to use that word so I can cuss with more class. And I thought, wow, well, I have all these words. Let me just go ahead and teach a
Mhm.
class. And I did. And then the feedback I got was, oh, you should create a book of this. This was great. I need a book so that I can go in and look up these words. That's how that book was
Mhm.
born. I mean, literally out of the class and the followers. The dictionary is also because the followers were saying, I need a place where I can go and just look up the words in one space. I
Mhm.
don't want to comb through the thousands of videos that you have. I need one location where I can just find it. And then I thought, okay, well, I should do a dictionary. I mean, literally, that's what I said. I should create a dictionary. Now, here the backstory to this is that at the time, I was really sick. I mean, people don't know how sick I was. I was really, really sick. And I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. So I had to put it on the back burner. And then as I started to improve, someone sent me a message. I think they actually posted it publicly. It wasn't a message, and asked, if I was still going to create something, some kind of something to have all the words together, and that's what got me started back to doing it. When I literally tell you, so there, I mean, I have probably on TikTok, I have probably have about 4,000 videos.
Mhm.
I don't know how many I have on Instagram, probably about 3,000.
Mhm.
And so I have a lot of words. But what I didn't want to do with this dictionary is I didn't want it to look like the traditional Merriam-Webster
Mhm.
dictionary. This is the Auntie Bev style. So if you've been following me, you know that I give you the word, I
Mhm.
give you what it is. I even give you the
Sentence.
sentences. Yes.
Mhm.
So that's what this dictionary is. It is not the dictionary where you just go in and you look up the word and that's it.
Mhm.
This is the way Auntie Bev does it. And I even give you the phonetic
Yeah.
spelling so
Mhm.
that if you don't know how to pronounce the word, you can look up the phonetic spelling. And it's the way I would pronounce it,
Mhm.
not what I saw in Merriam-Webster, but how I would pronounce it. So it would be easier. And I tested it out with my grandson and my daughter.
Mhm.
So I wanted to make sure that if they looked at the phonetic spelling, that they could pronounce the word, and they both were able to do it.
But do you know how like monumental that is to say, I'm going to sit there and create? Because, like I said, these things just like it's almost like somebody saying, I want to write an encyclopedia.
You're right.
They've just always been around. It's never been a thing where, like, let me go write that. Like, I don't. I think that was like awesome because I saw the video and then I was like, oh, let me go buy one, and I was like, oh, it's sold out. Like that was
Yeah, it sold out
within
quickly.
like one day. I was like, okay, was late to that party. I didn't think showing up a day later was gonna grant me like no
I didn't either. Okay, I really didn't either.
day.
Sharee, here's the thing. How come we can't do it? Who
Yes.
says we cannot
And
do
I
it?
was so impressed by that. Like you just said, you know what? A dictionary.
Yeah, who says we can't?
Yes.
And this is only volume 1. I'm going to create.
She said it got released
Yeah,
volume after volume.
yeah. I'm going to release 4 volumes
Mhm.
of my word, and these are not just some obscure words. These are words you really can use.
Mhm.
So, and you will have the sentences to put them in
Mhm.
context.
Mhm.
I mean, why can't I?
Mhm.
Why can't I do it?
Yeah,
Who says I can't?
you definitely can because I use all your words. I'll be
Yeah.
and Auntie Bev taught me because when I write, I go right. I done use at least 15, 20 of the words when
Yeah.
I'm typing up an email, especially when I want to be funny.
Yes.
Oh, you want to be cute? Let me be funny. Oh, I need clarity. I bet you do need clarity. You don't know what the word means.
So good. That's great.
Yes. So 1 minute you're living a life, like you said, you weren't working, and then all of a sudden your grandson tells you to just start making content. And now you have 1.2 million followers on Instagram. You're about to hit a million soon on TikTok. And then you were on Kelly Clarkson's show. How has that ride been for you? And what has been like a big highlight where you could be like, oh, that was dope? Or amazing. Maybe I shouldn't say dope. Amazing.
No, I get it. I know what it means.
I know you know
I
what
know what it means now.
that
My daughter bought me a T-shirt. Well, she had on a T-shirt and said, "God is dope," and I said, "What?" And then she explained it. I said, "Oh, I need one. I
Okay.
need one too." And so when I wear mine in public, people like look at me and like,
Mhm.
"That's blasphemous." No, no,
Mhm.
it means God put you on a natural high. Don't you understand what that means? Okay,
Yeah.
I love that.
So let me use my words a little wise.
Now I forgot the question. No.
No, but how has the ride been for you? That was
Oh
basically it
yeah.
because to just wake up, even people who get 10K or 5K, but to have 1.2 million, that's just on Instagram. And then you go to TikTok, you're about to hit a million in there. And I can guarantee you, this is a different audience, a bunch of people. To have that many people watching you or looking to you for advice, history lesson, a word, motivation, or just something. How has that been for you? The good and the bad. And then, you know, what has been like the highlight, like a peak moment for you?
Well, let me say this. I have really not gotten caught up in the numbers. I think what has um, starting to resonate with me is who's following me. A quick story, and I told this story. I had a speaking engagement at North Carolina Central the other day, and the day before I had the speaking engagement, SZA liked one of my reels.
Mhm.
Now I didn't even know who that was. So I went to the page because I had the blue check, and I saw that she had 21 million followers, and I was like, "Well, who is this?" So I took a snapshot of a screenshot of the fact that she liked it. I sent it to my grandson who was on his way back to school. He said, "Grandma, please, you don't know who this is, because I'm really serious. No, I don't know who it is, right? But I know she liked my video."
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, Grandma, please." He said, "Go look her up, please." Just and he said,
He said, I have homework for you tonight,
yeah,
Grandma.
and follow her. And I
Mhm.
said, "Well, she's not following me. Why should I follow her?" So, I mean, I'm trying to understand this. He said, "Grandma, just follow her."
Mhm.
Well, I did look her up, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Oh, okay, that's who she is. Oh, she's real popular." And all the students at NCCU knew who she was. Now there was even a white student in the class, and she knew who she was. And I was like, "Wow, I feel bad." My husband even knew who she was, and I was feeling like, "Okay, this is not cool." But then someone commented on my video and said that the reason they came to my page is because she reposted that video. And I was like, wow. So when those things happen, um, even though I didn't know who she was, and I still don't really, but I think it shows the magnitude of what I'm doing and the
Mhm.
fact that there is a much larger audience who really wants to build their vocabulary, much larger than I even anticipated. I mean, so yeah, just much larger. But let me tell you my greatest joy of all joys is when I'm gonna try not to get emotional about this. Is when young Black men send me messages and they say, Auntie Bev, thank you. Thank you for helping me build my vocabulary. Thank you for introducing this word that I didn't know. And I'm going to find a way to use that word. Excuse me.
You're good.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize.
That gives me so much joy because young Black men get a bad rap,
Mm-hmm.
and um, there's a perception about them that they're just this, they're thuggish, they don't do anything, they're low lives, et cetera, et cetera. So when they come to me and they say those things, that is the greatest joy. When Gerard tells me that his own peer group, they'll be in a chat and somebody will drop a word that he knows only I introduced because he knows that they don't know the word. That gives me joy because it says that they really do want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have the opportunity to help them shine in some small way,
Mm-hmm.
then I've done my job.
Yes. And you are doing it well.
I apologize. This is not
No,
where I meant to go with this, but
this is the Sister Girls Book Club podcast. That's all we do is cry and laugh. I mean, we're gonna do one or the other. We gonna either cut up or we gonna be sitting up here like, "Oh, pass me the tear." No, so it's quite all right. And I think that's especially the times that we're in right now, the way the education system is changing, the way that literally in a couple months our whole education system can be flipped upside down. So we need outside sources to help and to be the auntie when you don't have the aunties, or to be that safe space where you can. A lot of kids are left home, they're latchkey kids still, and it's not because their parents don't want to be there, they have to work. We're in like the economy of like we couldn't have predicted this even if we tried. Okay. And so they don't have the tutors. They don't have the money to send them the tutor. And they don't have the time to maybe help them at night with homework because they're working a double shift. And know that there's someone out there on the internet, in the world, that they are tugged into, that they call Auntie Bev, and that has a dictionary. It's giving them free resources, right? They can pay for the book, but you can scroll, and you're not only introducing the word to them, you're telling them how to use it. You're doing it really fun. Like your grandson said, you're not looking down on them. You can start at any level. You've brought them in because they're in your videos. So that it doesn't feel unfamiliar. Like I said, they see themselves when they come to your page. I see myself when I come to your page. I see my mom. I see my aunt. I see all these people. I see family when I come to your page. And I think it is emotional because you're doing the Lord's work. You're doing the Lord's work. And you said earlier when we were off that you don't like to do interviews. And I'm just like, well, why? Because you got a story.
Yeah.
And I think that your story needs to be told. And that's why I wanted to interview you. I was like, she probably gonna say no. Because once you go to Kelly Clarkson, it might be hard. Get over here. I mean, you went daytime.
Well, and let me just tell you the story briefly. The story behind that. She wasn't even looking for me. The producer who uses English as a second language connected with me because she wanted to improve her vocabulary. That's the only reason. She wasn't looking to have me on the show.
Mhm.
She just wanted to improve her vocabulary. And she said, she thought I was funny. She said, "Oh my God." She said, "The sentences you were using," she said, "you had me dying laughing." And she said, and that's when she went and presented me to them. They weren't even looking for me at all. So
there is a lesson in that. Your talents will take you further than you would think, and the people will put you in them rooms. But that's what I'm saying. Is like it's so awesome. And even when like I said, when I found, I'm like, let me just reach out, maybe, because I noticed she didn't have a lot of interviews. I don't see a lot of content, but so maybe. So when you said you don't do a lot of interviews, and then you talked to me for almost an hour, and it felt like Auntie Bev was just sitting right here having a chat. I'm like, well, maybe you need to say another yes, because people need to know the story and they need to know your heart, because it is a heart there, because you have so much content. If your heart wasn't it, I could see where you could be like, well, guys, time to back it up. It's been real, but you continue to do it, and I think that is so. It's beautiful. It really is beautiful. So, what do you have coming up? Well, everybody go grab the whenever we can get it, y'all, because these are like Beyonce Renaissance tickets. It's hard to come by. Hard to come by. I literally said, I'm going to buy it. You know, it was a day, 24 hours had passed, and we have no more paperbacks. We are finished. So,
No, you're not finished. I mean, the official
now,
book
anyway,
launch is tomorrow.
yes, the book launch
Friday.
comes out tomorrow, but I was trying to be ahead of the curve and be like exclusive with mine. So the way when y'all had to get y'all fulfillments, I would have had it already taken the picture because I'm important. But I can't even be like, I got mine early. I was like, yeah, okay. I didn't know it was gonna go down like that. I didn't know. But tell people when they can get it. What do you have coming up next? And what do you hope to build with this brand? Because I feel like it's such a it's already, the building is there. You just want to add on a pool, a backyard, a guest house. Like,
Well, the dictionary, like I said, the dictionary, the official launch is Friday, September 6th.
mm-hmm.
And that happens to be my grandson's birthday.
Shout out to grandson.
Yeah. And I thought that what a perfect
Mm-hmm.
day to launch something that this young man at 14 years old saw something in a grandma, and it's a perfect day. So that's why I chose that particular day. As far as other things coming down the pike, I'm kind of like playing it by ear. I just finished a brand deal with Kroger.
What? Not Kroger.
Yeah, I just finished doing a video. Well, the video was already done, but we just wrapped up the final contract negotiations. And I'm going to be creating volumes 2, 3, and 4 of the Word Up Dictionary. And, I'm in my 5th year as a part-time writing consultant at North Carolina Central, a job I absolutely love. Oh my God. When I tell you I love working with those students, because I love helping them find their unique voices.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids come to college thinking that they're all that, and then they come up against Auntie Bev. Well, it's not Auntie Bev, but they come up against me and they realize their writing really isn't all that. But I love helping them find their voices. But I think that this may be my last year, just because I am over retirement age now. And my husband retired officially last year. We've been doing more traveling, and I'd like to be able to enjoy these remaining years doing it my way.
Yeah.
And that's why, I'm not pressed to do anything. I'd love to, probably, I'm gonna put this little thing out in the universe. I'd probably love to, do a college or a high school commencement speaking engagement. I'd love to probably do one or two of those. But other than that, I'm not, stressed to, I'm not one of those, influencers. Now I know I'm a social media influencer.
Definitely.
I didn't even know what that was. Like, I'm not stressed to make money. Because like I said, I have a gift. I recognize I do have a gift. I understand it. And that gift is to be given away to others. There's the value there. So when I receive what I receive back, then I know that I'm blessed. And the money, as the money comes, that's wonderful, but I'm not chasing the dollar. The dollar can chase me, but I'm definitely not out chasing dollars.
I love it. So I'm going to do some quick flash questions and then we're out of here.
Okay.
Whatever's the first answer to the question. Okay. So writing in the daytime or at night?
Daytime.
Your most overused word in your vocabulary.
Oh God. And so, and so, and so.
Okay, breakfast food or dinner food?
Oh, that's a great question because I can make some good breakfasts, but
Gotta be quick. You gotta be quick.
I don't eat them all the time. But let's just say dinner.
Okay, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King Jr.?
Oh, Malcolm X.
Okay, Good Times or the Jeffersons?
Good times.
Marvin Gaye or Smokey Robinson?
Oh, Marvin Gaye.
And who is Auntie Bev?
Who is Auntie Bev? The one word that comes to mind.
No, you can say anything more than one
Who is
word.
Auntie Bev? She's sassy,
Mm-hmm.
classy,
Mm-hmm.
um, and is a giver.
I love that. Thank you so much, Auntie Bev, for hanging out with me because I know you don't like doing interviews, but I hope this was fun for you.
It was. It was really like talking to a friend, Sharee, and I really appreciate it so much. You are a great interviewer, and you made me feel very comfortable as someone who sat on your side of the mic. You know how to make people feel comfortable, and that made this interview very, very enjoyable.
Thank you so much.